Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hold on a second. I'm going to try to play guitar, Jaya without waking up my kids. So let's see how it goes. Might be a gentle kirtan. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopijanavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Gopijanavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. I'm going to read a verse. Even though we don't have a verse today, I'm going to read a verse anyway, because the Bhagavad Gita is ecstatic. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita. Why not? Who will protest? Huh? Anyone? Exactly. That's what I thought. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text number 16. Jnanena tu taragyanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashayati tatparam. Jnanena tu taragyanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashayati tatparam. Jnanena tu taragyanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashayati tatparam. The Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, when, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Obviously, we'll be speaking about Srila Prabhupada in just a moment. Let's first hear his purport. He says, those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Gyana Plavena, Gyanagni Sarva Karmani, and Nahi Gyanena Sadrisham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. All of these verses are from chapter 4, Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Gyana Plavena. Krishna likens knowledge to like a boat, Plavena, Gyana Plavena, a boat by which you can cross over the ocean of nescience. Gyanagni Sarva Karmani says knowledge is like a fire, which burns up all of your karma. Nahi Gyana, he also says, not listed here, but in the last verse of the 4th chapter, Gyanasina, knowledge is like a sword by which you cut through ignorance, which is in the heart. So knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna, as it is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanavan Mam Prapadyate. After passing through many, many births, when one perfect in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. So many amazing analogies here. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. Did anybody in this Zoom room ever think themselves to be God before coming in contact with the devotees? I know I did. Fortunately, there were some very patient young devotees in New Zealand who helped me to realize the folly of my thinking. So when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, Prabhupada is just, Hare Krishna, Prabhupada is just so sharp. You know, he just knows how to like take us down a peg or two. You unceremoniously think yourself God. I'm God. There's no ceremony, unfortunately. We didn't do any ritual. Nobody celebrated my declaration of my godhood. But still, so many people just like wake up one morning and go, yep, that's the way to solve all my problems. Just think that I'm God. Fortunately, Srila Prabhupada opens our eyes to this nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience, or Satan, is greater than God. I'm going to show this line next time I'm on the street and some Christians come up to me, getting all in my face. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and, under him, learn what Krishna consciousness is. Let's hear this again. Obviously, this is the theme of our glorification of Srila Prabhupada today. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and, under him, learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nescience as the sun drives away darkness. This has been all of our tangible experience, isn't it? Krishna consciousness drives away your ignorance, just like the sun comes up and all the darkness is dissipated. You don't have to try to see yourself and the environment around you. When the sun rises, everything is clear. Not only is the sun clear, but your own identity and the environment that you're in all becomes clear simultaneously. That's been our tangible experience. Every single one of us who's come in contact with Srila Prabhupada, and very easily so. And, perhaps we take it for granted just how clear some of these most pressing questions of life are. We might kind of take it for granted. We've been around the devotees for a few years or a few decades, and we might forget how bewildered we were before we met the devotees and how bewildered people are now. You just go out on a little book distribution, talk to somebody, and hear them try to explain their understanding of who they are, what the world is like, and the confusion is palpable. And I'm not trying to say this by way of judging. Obviously, we don't want to be inimical towards anybody who's innocent, but the confusion is palpable. They are really in the darkness of ignorance, as Prabhupada would say. People just have not the slightest idea that they're not the body, that they're meant to serve in love. They don't know what love is. Just the confusion is pathetic, to be honest. And so we might take for granted that, a lot of these pressing issues in life, who am I? What is it all about? What is my purpose? These things are just so explicitly clear to us, such that we might even take it for granted now. Like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And on the appearance day of Srila Prabhupada, it's something that we should take time to remember. It is a very big deal that we came in contact with His divine grace, who made it very, very easy. Very easy for us. As was mentioned earlier, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Gyanavan Mam Prapadyate. Usually this takes many, many lifetimes. Bahunam, Bahu can mean thousands, it can mean millions. It takes many lifetimes to kind of figure this out. And for most of us, it was like a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Not because we are anything particularly brilliant, but as Srila Prabhupada is saying here, real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. It was that easy. We were just in the right place at the right time. So let's contemplate this as we renew our vows to Srila Prabhupada, our vow of appreciation and servitude, fealty. Let's contemplate how significant it is to come in contact with a representative of the Lord. Let me, of course, finish Srila Prabhupada's purport here. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body, but is transcendental to the body, he still not be able to discriminate between the soul and the supersoul. As we discussed a few weeks ago, by your logical intelligence alone, you can come to the conclusion that I'm not the body, but understanding the nature of God, Bhagavan, is impossible without the mercy of the Lord and His devotees. However, we can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect, bona fide, Krishna-conscious spiritual master. This is really interesting. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in the second chapter that every living being is individual and that the Lord also is individual. They were all individuals in the past, they are individuals at present, and they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in the darkness. But in the day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. Doesn't that just summarize all of Srila Prabhupada's philosophy? His presentation, like the emphasis of his presentation in a mere sentence. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. I mean, that's like Prabhupada's motto right there. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, on the blessed day, the anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's appearance, it's worth it for us to remember exactly how valuable is it that we have a relationship with His divine grace. Let's not take it for granted. Just because for us, the question of the self and the nature of God is so easy to answer, it does not mean that we are brilliant, that we're some sort of like super spiritual geniuses. No, we were very, 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 very fortunate to come in contact with a representative of God. What did Prabhupada say here? Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. And nobody doubts Srila Prabhupada's status as a perfect representative of Krishna. It's remarkable that there are many religious leaders of the world, and all of them have their value, some more than others, let's be honest here. But there are so few like Srila Prabhupada, who's just free from scandal. Just to be free from scandal and to be a religious leader in Kali Yuga is already a remarkable feat. Free from scandal, and who is just so explicitly preaching pure devotional service on every page, uncompromising. Every single page, pure devotional service. That sort of representation of God is very rare. And again, let us not take for granted. Just because we hear Prabhupada every day, we might think like, well, this is the norm in all other religious traditions as well. No, I'm sorry to be a bit critical here, but in many of the other religious traditions of the world, their approach to God consciousness is very mixed with fruitive activity, very mixed. You know, we got the prosperity theology coming from the Christians, where it's like, what is it? God blesses those who are pious with wealth, and therefore, because I have wealth, I must be a pious representative of God. It's like real simple, logical thinking for them. And that's why they have all these super pastors who are multimillionaires flying around in private jets, encouraging people to donate their money to themselves. Or a lot of people that have they're representatives of God. Their representatives of God emphasize a particular ethnic culture as necessary for salvation. Of course, this is very popular with all religions, perhaps especially with the Muslims, where you have to have a very specific ethnic culture. And if you don't, then all of your religious activities moot. And, therefore they use that to oppress certain ethnic groups who are even just slightly different from them. And of course, to oppress women in so many different ways. It just gets really ridiculous. And somehow they're convinced that this is our approach to God, is that, I was born on this side of an imaginary line, and therefore, my particular ethnic culture qualifies me for a relationship with God. And you were born on that side of an imaginary line, which is mostly made up by French people at the end of World War II. What is it called? The Maginot Line. Anyway, they divided all these, not in the World War II, I can't remember when, but all these Europeans, of course, divided the Middle East. They just wanted to make clean lines on a map. And so said, no, now you're this country and you're that country. And just drew these lines right through the middle of different ethnic groups to cause them to war with each other, and people like really think, well, this is my religion. So again, we kind of take for granted that Prabhupada just bypassed all that stuff. For most other people in the world, that is their approach to religion. It's very mixed with fruitive activity, or it's very ethnic and racial, or it's political. Nowadays, of course, in America, we're seeing this sort of, what is it, the term that's coined? I'm not the one using this term, but a lot of people are saying it. There's a Christo-fascism. So religion is entering into politics very strongly, again, despite America being founded on the exact opposite. and a lot of people, that's their approach to religion. We might take for granted that we just do pure devotional service. We're just all about hearing and chanting about Krishna's pastimes, chanting his holy name, and trying to serve without any mixture of selfish desire or fruitive activity. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukunyena Krishna anushilana bhaktiruttama. We might just kind of take that for granted. Like, what's the big deal? It's a very big deal. And on the appearance day of Srila Prabhupada, we should remember that it's only because of him. It's only because of him that we skipped all of that fruitive stuff, all of that mixed devotion stuff, just because Prabhupada just let us in. We cut the line. It's like when I went to the Ukraine festival in 2013, I think, and Sarvatma Prabhu was there, and he very kindly asked me to come all the way up to the front during a lecture, a kirtan or something. I can't remember, but Prabhu, of course, is a VIP at the Ukraine festival. So he said, "Oh, come up here and we can sit up in the front." Of course, there's like 11,000 people at the Ukraine festival. And the festival is so big that if you're in the back of the tent, you probably haven't even experienced it, Sarvatma Prabhu, because you're always up at the front. But it's so big that if you're at the back of that tent, there's like a delay in the sound. Even in the kirtan, you can hear the kirtan just like a moment later, just because it's such a huge crowd. But Sarvatma Prabhu saw me and he very kindly just brought me up to the front to sit down with all the VIPs. I was like sitting next to all the swamis and the big devotees and stuff. Why? Not because I was contributing anything of any particular value, but just because I knew somebody. So Sarvatma Prabhu just brought me up to hear very closely from the speaker and from the chanter. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada is just like, just come sit up at the front, pure devotional service, no big deal. Just come on up here. Let's just skip all of that bodily consciousness, religious stuff, that ethnic stuff, that fruitive activity stuff, that political stuff. Let's just skip all of that and just come right up to the front. Pure devotional service. That's what Prabhupada is preaching in every single page. So let us remember how valuable that is. Let's not take for granted. Today is a day for renewing our appreciation, and particularly our appreciation of Srila Prabhupada's books. And this will be my last point, probably, because we all got a lot to do today. Everyone's recovering from the ecstasy of yesterday. This is an important point that I'd love to share with those who are listening today. Of course, you're going to hear lots of important points about Srila Prabhupada today, but I've got the mic, so you all have to listen to me. And here's my meditation for today. And it's simply this. There are many groups that have a relationship with Krishna. We don't have exclusive right to Krishna in ISKCON, even though we're the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We don't have a monopoly on Krishna. There are several legitimate sampradayas. There are many different groups that serve Krishna, even different groups, followers of Lord Chaitanya. There are many groups in the world who chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It's not like we have some exclusive right. We do not have exclusive right to the Mahamantra. We do not have exclusive right to Krishna. In ISKCON, there are many groups that serve Radha and Krishna in the deity form in the temple, or Lakshmi Narayan form in the temple. That's not something unique to ISKCON. Our unique asset in ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's books. Chanting Hare Krishna, there's many groups that do it. Serving in the temple, the deity form, many, many groups do that. Access to Lord Krishna and his devotional service, there are many groups around the world that do that. We're not a monopoly here in ISKCON, but our unique asset, and I would therefore say one of our most valuable assets, is that we have Srila Prabhupada's books. Something very unique, something very special. And as I said, Prabhupada just bypasses all of that ethnic, political, fruitive religion. And on every page emphasizes pure devotional service. let's not become familiar with that and take for granted that that's Prabhupada's standard on every page. No, it's exceptional. It's remarkable. It's very special. And we are so fortunate to have that. Our unique asset in ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's books. Nowadays, we know that to really maximize your potential, to bolster your life in the best way possible, you must take advantage of your most unique assets. Of course, we're living in Kali Yuga, where an individual is a commodity. People market themselves as a product with influencers and whatever. And people know whatever is your unique asset, you got to put that forward. That's how you rise above. So similarly, our unique asset in ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's books. And that's what we should put forward more than anything, in my humble opinion. As I said, many people in the world do kirtan. Many people chant Hare Krishna. It's not exclusive to ISKCON. Many people are serving the deity of Radha and Krishna in the temple. That's not exclusive to ISKCON. Many people have sampradaya, they have gurus, they have the whole cultural experience. But our valuable, unique asset is Srila Prabhupada's books, and that's what we should put forward more than anything else. That's my opinion. Anybody who comes to any of our centers or temples, they should leave with books in hand so that they know this is unique. This is ISKCON's contribution. This is what we're doing to improve the culture of devotional service in the world. Is Srila Prabhupada's books, which are so adamant about pure devotional service. So I've seen that in many temples, many communities, and I'm not at Gitanagari all the time, but I hope that can be a standard as well. Anybody who comes should receive a book. Of course, Vaisheshika Prabhu and his communities always do that. Everyone gets a book. One time I brought my father early in the morning for Bhagavatam class when I went to visit him in California. I think I just stopped being a brahmachari. I don't remember. Anyway, we went to 7 a.m. He was still working. So he had like his, suit and tie, and he had a coffee, he had to get a coffee for 7 a.m. It was like 2 feet tall, ultra grande, mega venti, whatever. And he's sitting in the back. And Vaisheshika Prabhu and I, we were singing some bhajans. He asked me to sing some bhajan, and then we had class. And he said, "Oh, who are you?" Pointing to my father. And I said, "Oh, this is my dad. It's his first time at a temple." And Vaisheshika Prabhu was so nice. He was already on the asana, he's already giving class. And he actually, he stood up from the asana, which is controversial, as you know, about Romaharshana and Balaram. But he got up off of the asana, took off his own garland, put it on my father. And he said, "Everybody who comes here gets one of these." And he gave him one of those deluxe Bhagavad Gitas. It wasn't even like the $2.50 paperback orange one. We're talking about the deluxe hardcover, 30 pictures. It was just like gorgeous. I was jealous. I was like, "Dad, you're going to read that? Or can I have it?" So Vaisheshika Prabhu said, "Everybody who comes here gets one of these." And I thought that really sums it up. Because if someone comes to an ISKCON center, we want to show them the best of what we've got. Our unique asset is Srila Prabhupada's books. So everybody who comes should get a book. Srila Prabhupada's books are obviously, as many of us have experienced firsthand, life-changing. I mean, even life-changing is not a strong enough word, because it's changed the course of many lifetimes. It's not even a single lifetime. Srila Prabhupada's books are our most unique asset, and I think our most valuable asset. So let's take this day, the day of the anniversary of the appearance day of Srila Prabhupada, to remember how valuable it is that we've come in contact with Srila Prabhupada directly or through his books, which are the best of himself, and not take for granted that these questions about who am I, what is the nature of God, what is the nature of the world, let's not take for granted that these things are just easy. It's a real challenge for most people in the world. They suffer as a result of their confusion about these existential questions. But for us, it's like nothing. It's just so simply understood. It's not because we are really remarkable people. It's because we receive the good fortune of a perfect representative of the Lord. As Prabhupada says here, real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. So that's what I'd like to ask everybody to meditate upon today. Again, you'll be hearing so many things to meditate on in regards to Srila Prabhupada, but since I have the microphone now, that's my point I'd like to share with everyone. Our unique asset in ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's books. It's our most valuable possession, and we should put it forward. We should make sure everybody knows this is what we're about. Make sure everybody gets access to Srila Prabhupada's books, and their lives are changed because of it. One last thing, if I may, before I cut everybody loose to celebrate, is that Srila Prabhupada's books also pose a challenge for a lot of us. There are some points that can certainly challenge our attachment to the body, obviously. Practically every page challenges your bodily concept of life, even a specific gender. Of course, Prabhupada also criticizes men on several pages. It just doesn't really stand out in like the post-feminist world. He doesn't just say a few critical things about women. He says a lot of critical things about men too, but that's not as newsworthy. So obviously we can feel challenged by Srila Prabhupada's books and his literatures. And there might even be some parts where it seems to us like it's contradictory, like we don't understand what to make of something. In some places, Prabhupada emphasizes serving Krishna in this way, in other places in that way. And this is certainly not a fault in the slightest. I would like to suggest, as a little bit of a thought experiment, that what if it were the case that the apparent challenges posed by Srila Prabhupada's literature is actually our greatest gift in disguise? That Srila Prabhupada left for us a corpus of wisdom which demands that we must use our intelligence to apply it. We must use our critical intelligence to apply Srila Prabhupada's instructions. It's like the key to the door. Prabhupada gave us the treasure, but the key to unlock it is that you must actually use our intelligence. And this might sound like a real simple thing, but again, you have to consider and compare that for many other religious groups in the world, their scriptures have become so simplified over time, so edited and simplified, such that there is no longer any need for critical thinking and analysis, philosophical inquiry, discussion. They've just codified it into like a dozen rules, and that's it. And, because it's so simplified, they don't know how to apply it in a variety of circumstances, which causes these schisms, and different groups fight over what to do, and they'll kill each other over it. That's the risk of having oversimplified transcendental knowledge. that people don't know how to apply it in a variety of circumstances, or for a variety of different people. Only certain people can really apply it. And then you get all sorts of weird things like the Catholic Church, who said that, well, normal people can't read the scriptures at all anyway. You're all just illiterate fools. Only the priest can do it. So if you want to know anything about God, you have to go through us. You have to pay us indulgences and whatnot. And they hold the keys to your salvation. That's the risk of having oversimplified and codified religious knowledge. Srila Prabhupada gave us a vast library, and it's such that it demands that we must use our critical thinking and intelligence, that we must communicate with other devotees to unlock all of it. I would be so bold as to say that Srila Prabhupada designed it like that. We know that Prabhupada was very clever in his management philosophies. He wanted ISKCON centers to be like like franchise or like a confederacy. There's different. It's like, so there's individual groups. There's then like a joint bank account, like the Mormons, but they follow a unified code of ethics and activity. Prabhupada is just like very clever on how to manage all these things, and I think one of the ways that he's managed our understanding of the knowledge is that it demands that we must discuss it in the association of other devotees. We must use our critical intelligence and analysis. You cannot just simplify and codify the vast body of knowledge that's there. It's like the treasures in the chest, but the key to unlock it is that you must actually use your intelligence. I think is Prabhupada's brilliance to create it in such a way. So let's not feel challenged by the statements in Srila Prabhupada's books. Let's not assume that just because something doesn't make sense to me or appears contradictory to me, that therefore there's some fault. No, actually, what it demands is that we must discuss it with other devotees who are wise. We must apply our intelligence, as Krishna says, worship him with our intelligence. We must contemplate it. We must meditate upon it. We must apply it in devotional service, and that way we get vijnana, realization. So in conclusion, Srila Prabhupada's books are perfect. That is my opinion. They're absolutely perfect. Prabhupada's presentation of pure devotional service is absolutely flawless. The only thing missing is that will we put in the same effort to understand the books that Prabhupada put in to write the books? Prabhupada put in a lot of effort while we were all sleeping in our beds, dreaming of sense gratification. Prabhupada is up midnight, 2 a.m., producing these books, translating, writing, editing, making sure that they were published very nicely. Prabhupada sacrificed sleep. He certainly sacrificed the comforts and so much potential for sense gratification as the leader of a large religious movement. He sacrificed all of that to put in even more effort to produce as many books as possible before Lord Krishna took him back. So the only question that remains is, will we match Prabhupada's effort? Will we reciprocate with Srila Prabhupada's effort? And also read his books and apply our intelligence, contemplate the meaning. Don't just like read over the words and get a buzz and then feel like, oh, I did so many pages, now I'm accomplished. I mean, you can read one sentence and just contemplate it. Just think about it for days, weeks, months, years. What did Prabhupada mean when he said this? Discuss it with other devotees. Try to see it from every angle of vision. Prabhupada has a great treasure of knowledge, and the key is we must use our intelligence. We must reciprocate with the effort Srila Prabhupada put in to produce the literature, our unique asset in ISKCON. Hare Krishna. Anyway, this is one of many, many things to be said about his divine grace and glorification of him on his appearance day. But I know you're going to hear a lot more, so I won't overload you with my meditation. But yeah, so we'll finish with that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to listen, even though probably we're all tired in ecstasy. It's the ecstatic exhaustion that's unique to celebrating Janmashtami and Prabhupada's appearance day. It's a unique ecstatic exhaustion that we're all enjoying right now. So I'll finish there. If anybody wants to comment on something, you can. Sarvama Prabhu says, unfortunately, very few people possess the gift of critical intelligence, even among devotees. Your challenge sets the bar quite high. If that's the key, we better call a locksmith. Of course, we have a locksmith. We have our spiritual master. They're helping us to understand, like teaching us how to use your intelligence, how to think about what's being said. Hare Krishna. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to His Divine Grace on His appearance day. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. We'll see you all at the temple soon, I hope. If my kids wake up, then we'll come and chant and dance in ecstasy. Hare Krishna.